The young and the restless spoiler's shock. Billy Abbott stood alone on the terrace of his penthouse suite, the city lights of Genoa City shimmering like distant stars beneath a velvet sky. In his hands he held a crystal champagne flute, its contents long since warmed by the summer air. Tonight, he had dreamed of nothing but Sally, her laugh, her warmth, the way she had said yes when he asked her to marry him. Their love felt like sunlight cutting through every shadow that had haunted him for years. He had resolved, in that moment of joy and certainty, never to let fear or hesitation keep him from seizing the happiness that was finally within his grasp. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, and allowed himself a private smile. He pictured Sally's face when he'd slipped the ring onto her finger, her surprise, her tears, the way she'd wrapped her arms around him. Their wedding plans were already taking shape, an intimate ceremony at Crimson Lights, a reception in the Abbott family gardens, laughter echoing under strings of fairy lights. All of it felt perfect, inevitable, as though the universe had conspired to bring them together at just the right moment. But Billy's reverie shattered in an instant when he heard raised voices drifting from the hallway beyond the terrace doors. His brow furrowed as he recognized the tremor in Sally's tone. An edge of panic he had never heard before. He slipped the flute down to the small table, its crystalline echo lingering in the still air, and stepped inside. In the foyer stood Sally, her usually pristine composure stripped away by fear and anger. Before her, framed in the glow of the corridor light, was a stern woman in her late 50s, Sally's mother, Evelyn Spencer, and behind her, a small boy holding tightly to his mother's skirt. The boy's wide eyes took in the unfamiliar surroundings, confusion and apprehension roiling within them. "I told you shouldn't have brought him," Sally hissed, voice trembling. "This is my life now, my life with Billy. I do not want my son here, not while we're preparing to get married. He needs to go back to Los Angeles." Evelyn's jaw tightened. "You're being ridiculous," she snapped. "You walked away from him for weeks, chasing after some fairy tale romance. You left him alone with me, and now you have to accept your responsibilities. He's my grandson. I'm his grandmother, and I didn't come all the way to Genoa to be told to take him back where he belongs." Sally's knees threatened to buckle. She ran a frantic hand through her hair and shot a desperate glance over her shoulder, as though begging Billy to step forward and offer reassurance. But before she could speak again, her son, no more than 8, slender and pale, tugged on his grandmother's sleeve and peered up at Sally with hurt and confusion. "Mommy," he whispered, voice frail. "What's happening?" Heat flared in Sally's cheeks. She stepped forward and put a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Sweetheart, this isn't how I wanted us to be reunited," she said, voice cracking. "I'm so sorry. Let me explain." But her mother cut her off. "You run to Billy Abbott like he's going to solve all your problems," Evelyn seethed. "But you ran away from your own son. You can't have it both ways." She shifted her gaze to Billy, standing just inside the doorway, uncertainty etched on his face. "You should know the truth, Mr. Abbott. Your fiancée has a child she never told you about." Billy's heart powered to a sudden, terrifying rhythm. A child? His Sally had a son, and she had never once mentioned it. He swallowed, fighting the sting of betrayal that flared like a red beacon. He took a step forward. "Sally, what is he talking about?" he demanded, voice low but firm. Sally's lips parted, tears sparkling in her eyes. She opened her mouth, but her mother spoke again. "It's true, Billy. She had him before she met you. She didn't think you'd understand, so she hid him. But I'm not going to stand by and let her pretend she's childless when he's right here." Evelyn's rigid posture softened briefly as she bent down to scoop the boy into her arms. "This is Adam," she told Billy, holding the boy out so that he could see Sally's son more clearly. Adam clung to his grandmother's shirt, eyes wide and bewildered. Billy blinked, the breath he hadn't realized he was holding whooshing out in a rush. He looked from Adam to Sally, his heart pounding with questions and a flicker of protective concern. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, voice thick. Why would you hide him? Sally closed her eyes, shame and sorrow warping her features. I was scared, she admitted, voice so soft he had to strain to hear her. I was scared you'd. I didn't want to lose you. Our relationship, our future. She took a step toward him, tears falling at last. I love you, Billy. I love him too, but I thought if you knew, you'd walk away. Billy felt as though the floor beneath him had gone liquid. He stared at Sally, the woman he loved more than he had ever admitted possible, and at Adam, her son. The small, fragile extension of her heart that had never been given a chance to belong. His mind reeled with conflicting emotions, betrayal, anger, confusion, but also a deep, insuppressible ache of paternal instinct. He remembered how badly he had wanted children of his own, how he had grieved the loss of those possibilities when his previous relationships fell apart. And now here was Adam, vulnerable and in need of a home. He shut his eyes for a moment, gathering his thoughts. Sally, he said finally, voice steady. I wish you'd trusted me enough to tell me the truth. But he held out his hand and gently took Adam's small one in his. But he's here now, and that means he's part of this family whether we intended it or not. He looked at Sally, eyes brimming with emotion. I'm not going anywhere. Sally flinched, as though unable to believe what she was hearing. Evelyn swallowed hard, stunned into silence. The corridor hung on a single breath. Billy swallowed, then turned to Evelyn. Mrs. Spencer, I understand your concern. But this is my home too, and if Adam stays, it's my responsibility to make him feel welcome. I hope you'll trust me to handle this with care. Evelyn's stern expression gave way to reluctant acceptance. She nodded once, tightly. Very well, she said. But Sally, you have a mother's duty you cannot shirk. I expect you to step up. Sally wrapped her arms around Adam, kissing the top of his small head. I will, she whispered. I promise. Billy moved closer and pulled both of them into a protective embrace. Sally pressed her cheek to his chest, and Adam nestled against her, his eyes closing as though relieved to finally feel safe. Billy held them both, mother, bride, and son, bound together by a truth that had threatened to tear them apart but now formed an unbreakable bond. As the lights of the hallway glowed softly around them, Billy thought of the wedding that still lay ahead. It would not be the same as he had imagined, but perhaps even better, a ceremony not only uniting him and Sally but embracing Adam as well. In that moment, he understood that love was not about perfection or seamless beginnings, it was about confronting unexpected challenges together, owning mistakes, and forging a future bound by honesty and unwavering support. He squeezed Sally's hand. We'll figure this out, he promised. I love you, and I love him. That's what matters. Sally lifted her head, tears of relief shining in her eyes, and nodded. Evelyn watched, a fragile smile forming as she witnessed her daughter and son find strength in unity. Billy took a final, steadying breath and led them back into the penthouse, his arm around Sally's shoulders and Adam tucked close at her side. The night had brought unexpected revelations, but as they stepped into the warm glow of the living room, he felt an overwhelming confidence that, together, they could weather any storm and celebrate every joy, hand in hand, as a family. Under the soft glow of the city's skyline, Billy Abbott paced the length of his penthouse living room, heart fluttering with a mix of excitement and nerves. He had just returned from a celebratory dinner with Sally Spectra. His fiancée, his partner, the woman who had brought laughter and light back into his life after too many dark years. He paused at the floor-to-ceiling windows and gazed out at the glittering lights of Genoa City, letting the cool night air wash over him even through the sealed glass. Ever since Sally had agreed to marry him, he had felt as though he were floating above the world, carried on a current of pure joy. He envisioned their future. A summer wedding in the Abbott Rose Garden, the soft rustle of guests' conversation mingling with the scent of blooming hydrangeas, and Sally's radiant smile as they exchanged vows beneath an arch of white peonies. But just as Billy began to relax into that daydream, he heard the soft click of the front door, followed by hurried voices, Sally's unmistakable breathlessness and another, firmer voice insisting something urgent. His pulse quickened. He set down the crystal champagne flute he had been clutching and moved toward the foyer, pressing a hand to the wall to steady himself. As he stepped into the hallway, he caught sight of two figures illuminated by the recessed lighting. One was Sally, clad in a simple silk blouse and jeans, her expression torn between panic and forced composure. The other was a stern woman whose bearing he did not recognize immediately. Beside her, peeking out shyly, was a small boy clutching the woman's skirt, his dark curls framing a pair of uncertain eyes. "Sally?" Billy called softly, heart pounding as he crossed the room. "What's going on?" Sally's eyes widened when she saw him, and for a heartbeat, she looked as if she might dissolve into tears. She took a step toward him, and Billy instinctively opened his arms. "Billy, she began, voice trembling. But before she could finish, the woman spoke, her tone sharp and unyielding. "Mr. Abbott, I'm Evelyn Spencer. This is my grandson, Adam. He's Sally's son." Billy felt as though the floor had folded out from under him. "A son? Sally had a son?" I had no idea," he stammered, turning to Sally for an explanation. But she only glanced at him with pleading eyes, then at her mother with a mixture of anger and apprehension. "I came here to talk to Sally, not to you," Evelyn continued, voice low but fierce. "She left Adam behind in Los Angeles while she chased after you, while she treated you like the center of her world. Now it's time she faces her responsibilities." She gave her grandson a gentle shake. "Adam, why don't you say hello to Mr. Abbott?" The boy hesitated for a moment, then shuffled forward, clutching his grandmother's hand. Billy knelt down to meet him at eye level. "Hey there," he said softly, forcing warmth into his voice. "I'm Billy. It's nice to meet you." Adam's eyes locked onto Billy's, flickering with curiosity and caution. Sally hurried around them and knelt beside her son, brushing a lock of hair from his forehead. "Adam, this is the man I love," she said, voice quavering but determined. He's going to be a very important person in our lives." She turned back to Billy, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I was afraid you'd think less of me, afraid you'd walk away." Her lip quivered, and she swallowed hard. Billy's heart clenched at her confession. He looked from Sally's tear-streaked face to the small boy who had shown up unannounced. The hallway lights glinted off the polished wood floor, reflecting 1,000 questions in his mind. Why had Sally hidden this from him? What had she been thinking? And most vitally, could he accept this surprise, embrace this unexpected family member, and still move forward with the life he had imagined? He took a deep breath, pushing aside the swirl of emotions. He reached out and gently took Adam's hand. "Sally," he said, voice steady, "thank you for telling me now. I know it couldn't have been easy." He turned to Evelyn. "Mrs. Spencer, I apologize for the shock. But Adam is part of Sally's life, and now part of mine. I intend to be here for both of them." His words rippled through the tense air. Evelyn studied Billy's calm resolve, her expression softening imperceptibly. "I only want what's best for my grandson," she said quietly. "I just don't want him to be abandoned again." She glanced at Sally. "Promise me you'll take care of him, too." Sally nodded fervently, tears flowing freely now. "I promise," she whispered. "I've made mistakes, but I love him more than anything." She reached for Billy, who rose and gently hugged her and Adam together in a protective circle. In that embrace, Billy felt a surge of determination. He would not let fear fracture this moment. He squeezed Sally's shoulder. "We'll figure this out," he said, his voice resolute and warm. "We'll do it together." He looked down at Adam and gave him a shy grin. "And I can't wait to get to know you." Adam offered a small, tentative smile in return. Evelyn released her grandson and took a step back, folding her arms but nodding in approval. "Very well," she said. "But I'll be staying in Genoa for a while, to make sure the two of you keep that promise." She gave Sally a pointed look that carried both warning and affection. Then, with quiet dignity, she turned and guided Adam down the corridor toward the guest suite. When the door closed behind them, Sally sank to a bench by the entrance, burying her face in her hands. Billy knelt beside her, brushing gentle fingers through her hair. "Look at me," he said softly. Sally lifted her head, her eyes shining with remorse. "Billy, I'm so sorry," she said, voice thick with emotion. "I wanted to protect our perfect world, keep everything simple, and I thought if he was here, you'd see how complicated my life is and leave." She took a shuddering breath. "I was selfish and scared." Billy wiped her tears away and cupped her face in his hands. "Sally," he said, voice tender, "you're never going to scare me off. Your life, your past, even your fears, they're all part of who you are. And I love every part." He paused, his gaze unwavering. "If we're really doing this, if we're really committing to a life together, then your son is mine, too. We'll plan our wedding with him in mind. He'll walk you down the aisle, if he wants to. We'll make room for him at every step." A radiant smile lit Sally's face, tears still glistening on her cheeks. She threw her arms around Billy, clinging to him as though he were her lifeline. The penthouse seemed to hum with newfound hope, the promise of a blended family, forged in honesty and bound by love. Outside the window, the wind stirred the branches of a balcony garden, carrying the scent of jasmine into the night. Billy stood and held out his hand. Sally took it, and together they moved back into the heart of their home, a home that had just grown in size and depth. They laughed softly as Billy pulled her into a dance beneath the chandelier's warm glow, Adam's future presence now an unspoken thread weaving through their steps. In the days that followed, plans shifted. Their wedding invitations featured a small star for family. They arranged for Adam's favorite cartoon characters to be part of the ceremony decor. Sally reconnected with her mother, forging new boundaries built on mutual understanding. And every morning, Billy made it his mission to greet Adam with a smile, a joke, or a high five, building a relationship as genuine as his love for Sally. Through styled photo shoots and meetings with wedding planners, through moments of doubt and sleepless nights spent comforting an anxious child, they learned that true happiness demanded more than perfect moments, it required embracing life's unexpected turns. And when the big day arrived, with Sally radiant in white and Adam perched proudly by her side, and Billy standing before them with shining eyes, there was no question that their love story, once thought to be a simple union of two hearts, had grown into a testament of family overcoming fear, of promises kept, and of futures dreamed together. Under an arch of mingled roses and peonies, Sally took Billy's hands, the boy they now both cherished standing close enough to hold onto Sally's gown. As they spoke their vows that now included Adam in every promise, the sun dipped below the city's horizon, painting the sky in pinks and golds. In that moment, the world felt whole, their imperfect, beautiful family bound together by truth, courage, and love that would guide them through every tomorrow. Under the sprawling canopy of ancient oaks in Chancellor Park, the early evening light filtered through the leaves in fractured patterns, dappling the winding gravel path with gold and green. A soft breeze stirred the branches overhead, carrying the distant laughter of children at play and the echo of water lapping against the banks of the small lake below. Billy Abbott and Sally Spectra strolled side by side, hands entwined loosely but with an undercurrent of tension that neither wind nor sunbeam could dissipate. It had started with a simple desire for fresh air, an escape from the penthouse, from wedding plans, from the swirl of family dramas that had become their shared life, and yet the moment the crisp air filled their lungs, the unspoken weight of those dramas pressed down upon them with renewed force. Billy halted mid-stride, gaze drawn to the placid surface of the lake, where the reflection of the Chancellor Estate's grand facade shimmered in the ripples. He frowned, turning to Sally with a furrowed brow. "You know, I've been thinking about Adam," he began, voice low and hesitant. And Victor. And how they both seem to have an endless reservoir of energy to plot, to manipulate, to push me around. Where do they find it? I swear, sometimes I feel like I'm just running to stay in place, trying to keep up with their next move. The words tumbled out, heavy with frustration and exhaustion. Sally slowed her pace, pressing a hand against his upper arm. Billy, she said gently but firmly, we can't keep going down this road. Her tone held the calm authority that had first drawn him to her, an unwavering light in the darkest of corridors. You're obsessing over what they might do next, and Adam's watching you. He started mimicking your tension, clenching his tiny fists, pacing when you pace. This endless loop of suspicion and complaint, it's not healthy for any of us. We have to give ourselves permission to stop. Billy closed his eyes for a moment, as though trying to banish the swirl of anxieties crowding his mind. When he opened them again, they gleamed with reluctant admission. You're right, he conceded, voice rough around the edges. It's stupid. It's embarrassing. I want to walk away from it, but it's like some part of me is glued to the fight. I tell myself it's for protection, keeping us all safe, but really, I think it's become this burden I can't set down. They walked on, their footsteps humming against the gravel in a steady rhythm. A flock of geese honked overhead, drawing the wind currents southward, and for a moment the world felt hushed. Sally bowed her head, her dark hair brushing her shoulder. Billy, she whispered, they've tried to take you down, yes? They've tried their hardest, Victor with his underhanded deals, Adam's grandmother whispering half-truths into every ear she can find. She hesitated, her voice growing stronger. And look, here you are. They gave you that power over them, all right? They relied on your fear, on your reactions, on the way you let their moves dictate your life. But you're still standing.